Good morning, everybody. Good evening. Today is actually going to be an interesting one. Something we haven't necessarily really, I spoke a lot about. But since we moved Colourlab Ai plugin into DaVinci, what we also have succeeded to do is we managed to, streamline a little bit more the whole HDR workflow. It's really wonderful how better and fast. I mean, basically you'll see like we will be able to work in a very automated way in HDR. And also I want to show you a little trick I learned last week, which is pretty cool. About EL zones, which is actually, I think you're gonna love it. It's gonna save you a lot of time. And so yeah, I think it's gonna be a very good session. All right, so now let me start with what I got for you today. So this is going to be an interesting one. So I have my favorite Russian action scene trying to be American police kind of car chase scene where American police is chasing Russian Volga. I don't know how they came up with that, but I love it regardless. It's a fantastic little kind of exercise for us. I love it. Anyway, so let me just start a little bit what I got here first. I normally always start my HDR grades in SDR. I really don't necessarily first open and then make everything HDR. There are several reasons for that. The main reason is because 90% of the time the client has been monitoring everything in SDR on set. They've been cutting in SDR. They're kind of used to that SDR look. I find that it's a really big change if they walk into your grading theater and you see everything in HDR. Suddenly they kind of, usually will try to make your HDR look like SDR. So I think in order to avoid the confusion, it's always good to start with SDR, establish the look, and then do the HDR switch. So this is exactly how I'm going to work now as well. So I'm working in Arilog C. This is shot with Alexa, so there is no reason for me to work in any other way. And I'm outputting now to Rec 709. So then what I do is I go to my timeline level. And on the timeline level, I have my Colourlab Ai set up. So this is really how I work with Colourlab Ai most of the times. I really leave it as a kind of my post-processing pipeline. I could be at the front doing, Arilog C, or Arilog C. No, I mean, you guys love DaVinci by Gamut or Aces, whatever you want to do. But, my post-processing, my mastering pipeline, my final effects and everything, I use with Colourlab Ai because then I'm in JPlog 2. And by the way, we have an update for Colourlab Ai coming as a beta next week. Keep an eye. We're adding here some LUT exports. We're fixing something with lenses and grain and so on. So basically, there is constantly improvements. All right. So basically, what I'm doing here is I'm putting an I node here, and on the output, I'm putting an O node. And today, I'm using the Aces 2 version, so Aces 2.0, right, of Rec 709. And you're going to see why. So basically, instead of going for all the other options, I'm going for Aces 2.0. And actually, it looks incredible. I mean, if you just compare it with Aces 1, which is has this kind of very, contrasty feel, Aces 2 is absolutely, the biggest improvement that happened to Aces ever. Now, this node tree I changed a little bit. You probably saw me work with the Colourlab Ai differently before, but what I did now is I changed it a little bit. Maybe let me just go to this shot so that you can see a little bit why. I like to use this shot because it gives me more of basically trees and fine detail, right? So first thing I do is I apply grain, okay? And this grain is so hardly visible. I mean, you can see it here on the scopes, right? If I just enable and disable it, it's there. But to your eye, if I just zoom in really loads, right? It's just a very, very subtle grain. And I'm always going to have that. You will hardly see me actually like ever grade without at least that kind of very, hidden grain, what I call. Like, most of the time your client won't even know you have it. But subconsciously, what it does to an image is just really rounds image off. It really helps it like a kind of just feel a little bit like, that it has that kind of, like a weight that you normally get from a film negative, right? I really love it. And it doesn't slow me down. I mean, this is all real time, so it doesn't really bother me at all that I have a grain on it, it's just really fine. And it's like a ultra fine on a print, which is why it's so fine. And I'm using 35 millimeter on the negative. And I'm not using, in this case, any flicker or any weaver. I'm just basically like, just putting it out there. I'm not trying to make it, like a go too much filmic or something like that. Okay, so the next thing then I'm doing now is then after the grain, I am applying now the print stock, right? And so I'm going basically for my Kodak 2383, right? On that kind of print lab. This is different profile than 2383 that you see normally in Look Designer or any other. It's slightly different, right? It's very, very modern in the way it's measured and also works in JPlog 2, and it has 128 point precision. So what I do is I actually whack it a little bit more. So what I did now is I basically have taken image, I've taken grain, and I've applied print on top of it, right? So now I'm in a very, like, I love it. Like, so you see that print kind of has given me, like, has changed the foliage, which is always my problem. And generally, like, every time I start with a digital camera, I kind of really don't like that kind of green, very, vivid green. It beautifully kind of gave me that, little bit split tonality, everything, that you kind of really want from an image without having to tweak 100 knobs or anything like that. I'm there. But then what I do, I then take a parallel node and then I use basically halation lab, but without really using actual halation. What I do is I go into diffusion controls, right? I'm using in this case haze, right? And I pipe it from the original. So basically why I'm doing this, I don't want my halation, my diffusion, to have that grain in it. So what I want is I want a clean source, right? Where I still have the full high frequency detail, because imagine like a grain reduces the high frequency detail because, it applies that small particles, right? But I want it without it. So I'm taking diffusion from original source and applying it and blending it then as a parallel node. Okay, so then I take the diffusion and I blend it post-print. So that really, and you see diffusion just gives me you see how around these kind of, highlight areas, just gives me a little bit more life, a little bit more softness, a little bit, I just want to kind of, just give that kind of highlight roll-off. And this is really, some people ask me, why do we need JPlog 2? This is why you need JPlog 2. You need, in order to generate this beautiful highlight, you need color space that is larger than your original source. Because you will be generating highlight that has never been captured by the camera. Is completely invented, by the algorithm. And if you're maxing already, like your camera signal, then where is this highlight gonna go? But if you have tons of headroom, then that highlight beautifully disperses itself and it just looks, much more pleasant to the eye to begin with. Okay, so now I'm basically there. Now I want to show you another trick I do. This is what I learned. Look, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to open another node and I'm going to use this node for add Lachman zones. Okay, and then for that, I'm going to put my Look Designer here. And I'm going to tell the Look Designer, hey, I'm sending you Rec 709. This is the signal I'm sending. And I want you just to show me add Lachman zones, EL zones. Now, I don't necessarily blend anymore the guide. You can do this. I kind of learned already what the guide tells me, so I leave that disabled. And then what I do is this. I right mouse click on this node and I say save as shared node. Okay? And then what I also do is I also unlock this shared node. Now watch this. Then you go back into your normal clip grading. You start a new node, a new corrector. You connect this corrector and you just have it here. It doesn't have to have an output. Just have it as a node there. And then I go back into my shared node for Ed Lachman. I say Command C. I go back here and I say Command V, right? And now I have this shared node here. And so what I can do is I can just turn it on and off here. So I don't need to go always back to the timeline. You know, if I want to just check what's Ed Lachman's zone telling me, right? And Ed Lachman's zone has to be at the back because it works in Rec 709, right? So I want to go and say, oh, there we go. There it is. This is what I'm doing. Ah, fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and open it up a little bit, right? And I'm going to open it, in my case, with gamma. So I'm just going to go a bit. And so I want to just my little bit. You see, now I'm better because I'm kind of, you know, opening the road where the car is really, this is probably where we wanted to expose it. I set it here and now I'm happy, right? So there we go. So now just to go a little bit through my node tree here, you know, we've seen it before. IDT is empty because I'm working in Arialog C and it's shot with Arialog C. My 80% of grade is living here. Then I have here my Colourlab Ai node. Here I'm trimming any Colourlab Ai output. Then I have here any curves. If I want to apply here, this is, you know, for my secondaries in case I ever want to do something there. And here I have windows. Okay. And and I'm going to go and adjust these windows already now a little bit, you know. So I'm just going to basically, you know, like bring down a little bit my vignette, right? I'm going to bring down a little bit my sky, you know, and I'm basically just, you know, like, doing a little bit work. I'm not really like, you know, doing anything crazy with it. You know, I'm just basically doing that. These two I'm going to leave. This is my left and right. And the spotlight, I'll open it a notch. I just want to open it a little bit, you know, because this play between spotlight and vignette, I generally always, you know, tend to do, even if it's the very slightest thing. That helps that kind of, you know, feel of roundness of an image. It helps, you know, elevate the depth. Okay, and that would be kind of my setup. And then I would say, okay, great. Now listen, I actually quite like this look already. I don't really kind of need to go crazy. This is, you know, really like because of the print node, and this is really what they wanted, you know, it's kind of cool chase. It has everything there, right? What I'm going to do, I'm going to probably just go here to curves, and I will use my curve here, editable spline, and then I'm just going to like give it a little nudge here. I just want to like, you know, a little bit crunch, you know, like that. That's all I'm looking for. So just a little bit, you know, that my shadow kind of, you know, just kind of pull. It's an action scene, so, you know, we want it to be a little bit like that. And I'll open a little bit gamma, like just in case, right? And that's it. So now what I do is I'm now going to go back into Colourlab, right? And I'm going to save this as a reference. But you see, I'm saving it as a reference in Arialog C to Arialog C. So now I have basically set everything up in SDR, right? And what's really cool, right? I can now go, let's say, to this shot, right? I just copy this whole node tree. Did I copy it? No. Okay, 1 second now. You have to unlock it. Thank you so much. Let me try that again. And then I unlock it. Okay. And now if I come here, is it going to copy? Yes. Well done. Who said that? Rand. Rand, my man. Rand is the star. Rand is the dude. I tell you, when I have a problem, I just go to Discord and I see what Rand's saying. I love Rand. Amazing. Rand the man. I love Rand. Thank you, Rand. Thank you. This is awesome, mate. This is awesome. I love it. Okie dokie, cool. So let me disable it. All right. So now what I did, I copied it. Okay. And I'm going to go now back. And then I will go into my AI node again. And then I will go and say match. Because why? Because you see, I have this reference from the shot before, right? And I'm just going to match to it. And basically, it works, right? So I don't have to now, spend time fiddling around with it. I'm basically, I got it. Thank you very much. Then I come to the next shot. Again, this is the same one, but I'm just going to go and match it, right? And, it just does exactly that kind of little trimming that I need in order to get the consistency. Okay. Now my client's happy. We saw the look in SDR, but I'm going to say to them, okay, great. Listen, before we continue grading everything further, let's go now and switch to HDR. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into our settings. And here as an output color space, we need this metadata in order to be able to preview things correctly, We're going to go and say, I'm working in a P3D65 PQ1000. This one, ST2084 1000 nits. Okay? I'm going to also say mastering is 1000 nits, so my monitor that's connected through HDMI is there. And then also, I will be trimming it for Dolby Vision. So straight away, I'm going to say, hey, my Dolby Vision mastering monitor is 1000 nit P3D65, and I will enable Dolby Vision straight away. Okay? So then what I do is I go back into my timeline level. And on my own node, I'm going to say, hey, I want to go HDR, and I automatically selected the P3D65 PQ1000 by ACES2. So this is the reason why I selected ACES2 as 709. I am really liking the work that was put into ACES 2.0 for the transition between HDR and SDR. And there is a reason why I was using Ed-Lachman zones, because what I discovered was as long as you're adjusting your shots correctly on a scene level, and that's what Ed-Lachman zone do. They tell you what's happening on a scene level. They let you control your exposure. The ODT of ACES 2.0 is going to do really good job in maintaining that consistency, that perceptual consistency between HD and SDR. And I find this transition between these two absolutely beautiful. Now, the only one that is a little bit better than this, and I have to be honest with you, is the one that Colorfront does. Colorfront has got their own custom way how they do this. But for that you have to work with Colorfront. That's not necessarily available to all of us. That one I really think it's a kind of a step above ACES, but so far I think for the rest of us, I think working with ACES 2.0 is absolutely fantastic. And then what you want to do now is you can then go into Dolby Vision and you can say, hey, show me my basically trim, right? Give me the the SDR trim, the 100 nits trim, right? And it's basically just going to go, now I was in the timeline mode. I don't want it. Sorry. Stop it. I want to be here and I want to go and say analyze selected. I only want this guy here, right? So now it's just going to analyze this clip, okay? And it's going to give me the Dolby trim for that. So now I'm basically able, normally what I do is I have one output of my DaVinci going to an SDR monitor where I'm monitoring my SDR grade, and one going to an HDR monitor when I'm monitoring an HDR grade, okay? And what is surprising is that this version, this Dolby Vision trimmed version, when you go through ACES 2.0 SDR HDR transform, is incredibly accurate to your original SDR grade. There is not a lot of shift. There is actually hardly any shift, as long as you respect the stops of exposure rule. So the shots that are too dark, the shots that are too bright, they won't match, right? They won't match because, Dolby Vision will try to do some funky trimming there. But as long as you have been following, like, okay, where is my zero? How should I be positioning this? The whole conversion and trimming using Dolby is just going to be so seamless. There won't be any surprises. And you'll be able to say to client, here we go. I have now here your SDR grade, your master grade. This is how audience at home is going to see it now when we send it through Dolby Vision. Now you're instantly basically able to confirm with the client, hey, do you like this? Is this what you want? And if they want any adjustments or anything like it, they say, yeah, I like it, but maybe open it up a little bit. You say, no problem. I open it up a little bit for you. You go and say, so you're monitoring now HDR, SDR trim, okay, like, by Dolby, but you can still adjust it. You say, okay, no, this is perfect. This is the one. And you say to your Colourlab Ai, fine, now this is now my reference. You are now my reference. Okay, and look at this. Now you can just go shot by shot, right? And you can just go and match it. Because basically your matching is done in Arilog C. So it doesn't matter to you at all whether you're working in HDR, whether you're working in SDR, whether you're working in Dolby Vision, whether, it doesn't matter, because you work scene referred, you control your exposure using your Ed Lachman zone on a scene level, and you basically are just going through it, and your shots are perfectly. And look at this, I'm just going shot by shot. Oh my God, this one's a little dark, isn't it? No problem, no problem. The Colourlab Ai does it for you. Like you say, this one looks a little bit funky. What's there? Oh, thank you very much. Oof, this one has a flare. Oh my God, that's going to be a tricky one. But let's see what Colourlab is going to tell me here, right? Oh, fantastic. Yeah, it darkened it a little bit. This one, let's see here. Fantastic. I love it. I love it. Let's see this guy here. This is balanced. No, I don't like it. This matches better. And then I'm just going to go and basically put them through. Excellent. Put them through here. This guy is definitely much better. Okay, let me do a little quick one. These shots I don't like. He's a little bit too bright. So what I can do is I can basically come here and I can say, okay, match it now. I can choose a different frame. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit trim now, because I want to do it post, and then I just drop it down a little. And then what I do is I'm just going to copy it to this shot as well. So now I'm better. You see? So basically you can just do a little trims, a little kind of, but everything else, seemed to be perfectly matching. There we go. So I got my sequence graded in HDR, right? I'm fully now Dolby Vision trimmed as well, no problem at all, right? I can just go through it and just make sure quickly that the Dolby Vision is not doing anything crazy. No, it's doing actually everything's absolutely fine. This is a problem shot always. Look at my highlight here, right? Why? Because we're shooting into the sun. So yeah, so what I want to do is I want to go and analyze, this particular shot as every frame, because there is going to be a lot of movement inside, and Dolby Vision is going to try to trim it for me. And this is what it did effectively. Look, it brought the highlight down. It doesn't let me actually clip or anything like that. And then what I'll do on my trim level, I just open it a little bit, because I don't mind, I don't want this shot to be too silhouette-y. And then I just basically go and just make sure. But you see how little work Dolby Vision trimming does, because again, when you work on exposures and you're basically working scene referred, at the end of the day, it's an algorithm, right, that is using certain measures, and we kind of figured out, how to reverse engineer it and what needs to happen in order for us to be able to get these shots to feel absolutely right. And that's it. I'm done. My HDR grade is now absolutely perfect. I'm happy to do it. I can now finish the grade, render it as IMF. I'm flying through it. So basically, I made the client happy by making sure that our SDR grade is what they want. I showed them that my Dolby Vision trim straight away at the beginning is matching what we wanted. And, I didn't waste a lifetime making sequences work for me, because Colourlab Ai has helped me do it, and I'm creating HDR and SDR at the same time. That's what I call efficiency. That's what I call efficiency. My only question is whether I should be using AI in front of the client or not. Whether I should say, let me watch it by hand. And then when they leave the room, I kind of start using the AI plugin. This is my only thing that I'm not quite sure. But I suppose this client I'm working with, I have attracted him or her because I told him I have AI software that's going to make it look better and faster. So I'm very open about it. But, for some people where I'm actually charging by the hour or whatever, I might not even say that I'm using it with AI. It's not their problem. I'm doing the job. So anyway, so that was basically the thing. I want to open now to Q&A. Please let me know any questions, anything, guys, you have, and I'm happy to cover up. Rodrigo has a question. Says, is there any benefit in having the scopes at 10-bit versus HDR? Oh my God, you're so right, Rodrigo. You should be always monitoring in PQ. I haven't switched it, but basically what you should be doing is you should always be on a PQ level. The problem is, Rodrigo, because I am now working on Zoom and I'm monitoring Dolby 709 trim, these scopes are pretty useless to me because they're not really showing me the actual PQ signal. They're showing me, my SDR trim. So that's a real bugger. But if I was to be, grading just on HDR and, wouldn't necessarily be doing all of this tonal mapping, right? If I would be working like this, then I would be staying definitely on with the HDR scopes.
Dado, very quickly. So if I don't have an HDR monitor, should I just stay with my scopes at 10-bit? Or
Yes.
Thank you.
Because if you're monitoring SDR signal, then the HDR scopes don't really mean anything to you, because the scale is completely different, right? So you want to kind of have your, 0 to 1000, 24, 10-bit scale, that really helps you more, because that's what you're seeing on your scopes effectively, right? So yeah. Bernard, you had a question. Please go ahead.
Hey, Dado. I just had two questions for you. So on the timeline node tree, I noticed that you didn't use Lens Lab on that tree. If you were going to use it, where would it have gone?
Very good question. If I had used it, I would have used it already straight after the I node.
Okay.
Because lens, think about it, is lens, right? So lens distorts image before it hits the sensor. So before it, you capture grain, you do any print emulation, any diffusion effects, anything, it goes through the lens. So you want already lens distorted image to then have any other application applied to it.
Okay, gotcha. And then the second question I have for you, so I mean, obviously a short demonstration too, but if we're using Print Lab, then if we're building the show look in Look Designer, would we just skip the print option there, or we still use the print option there in addition to the Print Lab option?
So no, if you're building a look in Look Designer, you would probably then put your Look Designer here instead of Print Lab. It's listen, it's one or another or one and another. I mean, I kind of, for this particular look, right, I went a little bit minimal in a way of what I'm doing, and it's very common, Bernard. You'll see jobs that come to you once they're already been shot, and they just come to you for grading. They very rarely want you to completely reinvent their look, They kind of have been editing already using their, Rec 709 transform. They're used to that look. So you won't do a massive excursion out of it. So these tools like a Print Lab, they are perfect for those occasions because they don't reinvent the look. They just, finesse it. They just apply some sort of beautiful, feel to it. The little kind of, that everything, that kind of split tonality, little orange teal, everything we love, And I tend to use them as my little kind of magic toolbox kind of thing, where I just put it on an image and they suddenly like their look already more. So in this case, this is why I didn't need to use look designer in this scenario. But there could be many other scenarios where I would be actually sitting with a client, developing a look, using a look designer, and then putting look designer here, on the print side as well. Because with Arri Alexa, I tend not to emulate negative a lot. With kind of cameras like Sony or cameras like, Red, I always put some emulation already at the beginning, right? Already at the start. I go CDL, show that. Because it helps kill all that kind of digital stuff I don't need. With Alexa, out of the box, I'm kind of liking it already. Like, I don't need to like completely reinvent that look, right? So just doing a print lat at the end, usually it's plenty. It's enough.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. The question is, when it's coming out of beta? It's next week, Wednesday. So next week, Wednesday, we are releasing 3.3. So I'm pushing a new beta. So Rand is going to get the first beta this time. I'm going to send we have a 3.3 beta with new features. And then we're going to do public on Monday. And then it looks like everything's okay. We're going to do like a Colourlab AI Pro 3.3 release on Wednesday next week. Yeah, that's the schedule. Yeah. So yes, the installer that we have at the moment is a beta installer, and we have never actually like bothered to make it like a proper or official one, because you'll see like the official release is getting new documentation and everything else. So literally like and we were working already on a new feature, which is called auto white balance. So there is a new node and so on. So everything is coming together and will be released next week. So yeah, we've been super, super busy this week with that. How would you use it? How use it for a DIT workflow for helping creating HDR dailies and on-set HDR monitoring? Very good question. So look, right now, the limitation of this workflow is that you can't export a lot. So, and that's a problem, because, you can't really put this in a LUT and then have a real-time preview on set. But this is going to change with update that we are releasing for FilmLab AI, the 3.1 update, which is also coming out next week, where we are adding to iNode and ONode LUT export functionality. And then you'll be able to put all this node tree, except basically diffusion and grain, right, into a LUT effectively, and then you'll be able to load this LUT and preview it perfectly like that. But I have to tell you that we have planned for 2025 a new system that is going to allow you to preview in real time on set grain, diffusion, lens simulation, everything. So it won't use any more LUTs. You will have to use, specific hardware for it, and you'll have a SDI in and out. It's just as if you're working with the LUT boxes, but it is actually going to allow you to add to image, all these post-processing effect that we call, and that. So that's coming, it's scheduled to be released for April next year for the NAB. Ollie has a question. Ollie wants to know when RAW and video output and decklink will be available. So the 3.3 is now giving you RAW. So that's the Tin Man is now integrated with the 3.3. So next week, Wednesday. And the SDI card is probably going to be another week or so. So we are certainly, committed to, in December, to give you all SDI. So this is happening. We had the first tests today as well. So, we're 100% committed to make that happen. Can you speak all about the new model that was trained, or about the model itself? Asked Dean. So Dean, what we did is now basically we have developed a system for fine tuning our model. So what we did is we basically have developed a training set of data that is white balancing only shots. So some of our clients we work with, I already mentioned they have like a now finally like big post houses here in Hollywood using it, and I know that Colourlab is really good when they call me and tell me, Dado, my license expired. Then I know, they're really using it. Anyway, so what's happening is that now we are fine-tuning, and we will be releasing more of those fine-tuned models, right? And this one is not going to change your contrast at all, right? All it's going to do is going to take your original color, and it will neutralize it as if to kind of give you like this D65 kind of type of neutral color exposure. So like if you use that in combination with your own control for contrast. So for example, let's say you love to just, let's say on this image here, right, you say, oh, all I want to do now, like I want to go and just neutralize the color because color is a little off, right? My Charlotte's doing already my look, and I'm just going to use my own CDL to kind of give it a little bit what I want, because that's what I like doing. That's my kind of, that's how I work as a colorist. I have a feel on my controls how I'm going to expose image. I don't necessarily want Colourlab to do it for me. Then we're opening that option for you as well. It's called auto white balance. So yeah, and then we open to suggestions, like as we move along, we'll be able to, release more of those fine-tuned models, so yeah, watch this space. Can you do a quick review for those of us who couldn't make it from the beginning to this, to the schedules? So, December 4th, we are doing a classroom training in New York, where we're going to be teaching masterclass all about AI, so we're going to be doing, desktop plugins, everything. Then the following day, we're going to be doing Colourlab Ai training. That's not announced, but I'll let you know it's coming. And then the following week, so this is basically November 11 and November 12 in Los Angeles, we're going to be doing Colourlab Ai one-day training, and then Colourlab Ai one-day training. Next week, Monday, actually I might push it out a little bit sooner, we're releasing 3.3 beta with raw support, auto white balance, and some other really interesting improvements, that I was getting from you, like, scrolling on a timeline, select all, and all of this stuff. And then on a Wednesday next week, we are releasing Colourlab Ai Pro 3.3. So that's basically going to be the schedule for that release. And also next week, we're starting a big Black Friday sale. All products except Colourlab Ai will be on sale. Colourlab Ai will not is not on sale. This is by application only. Gary has a question. Oh no, Guy. Is there any advantage or disadvantage to doing all of the film processing at the very end of the chain, or does it make sense to follow the exposure and processing chain by, for example, placing negative grain at the group pre-clip? Yes, Guy. Absolutely. And especially for cameras that you are like, feeling like that what's coming out of the camera is not really where you want it to be. If you look at your kind of negative, your log signal, and you apply just a standard 709 transform to it, and you go like, man, I really don't like this. Then what you do is you, as early as possible, and there is actually a method where we develop a custom IDT, right, that has negative emulation already at the beginning. And it's super effective way how to work. Because, then you get your camera already on input to start feeling correctly. And then, your whole node tree, your secondaries, your curves, your qualifiers are working using that color that you have modified already at the start. So I find it to be especially like when you're qualifying skin tones, you get better qualification of skin tones because your negative emulation has isolated skin tones a little bit for you, has kind of brought them into some sort of ballpark. So yeah, so there is definitely absolutely a case for it. In my example that I'm using today, I didn't need to do this, but maybe if you want, I can do another class. So yeah, so I hope this was useful. I hope you liked it, and I hope it's giving you an idea to how streamlined you can be now for your TV shows that need Dolby delivery. And yeah, maybe next time I'm gonna try to get ColorFront streaming device that you can all watch my HDR output as I'm grading live. This was always my dream, we never really got around to doing it, but that would be great if we start doing these live sessions where you can actually watch my HDR monitor. Excellent. Will it be the Black Friday sale? Yeah, the Black Friday sale it's starting, Andre, on Monday. And everything is discounted around 30%. And yes, perpetual licenses are discounted as well. But Filmlab AI is not on sale. So just so you know, this is not an item that we allow you for sale, but there is a discount to buy Filmlab AI if you already own Colourlab AI Pro. But all software, annual, perpetual, and even monthly, we discounted. So, I think it's a great opportunity for all of you who are like, still, just maybe on a trial or sitting and wondering what I should do. Now it's the time. Next week it's the moment. So thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the Friday, the weekend, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all in 1 week time. I will be doing a live stream on Wednesday to announce 3.3 as well. So just so you know. Speak to you soon, everybody. Take care. And bye-bye. Thank you, Louis. Thank you. Bye-bye.